I would say that Macron's stance is calculated, calibrated, and is belated. So it comes tardily, better late than never, but until recently, basically until last week, to be honest, in his first 7 years in office, President Macron had focused most of his time and energy on two regions of the world. The first one is the US, and the other one is Eastern Europe. And so really, um, if you count the number of meetings he held with foreign, dignitaries, the numbers of trips where he went abroad, etc., America, Lithuania, Poland, Ukraine came first. And in many ways, Macron, not only Macron, but Macron and the French elite more broadly in the past 7 years or 10 years, they kind of neglected the Mediterranean and North Africa and the Middle East, with a small exception, and that being Lebanon. But Lebanon is not a very important, is no longer an important country. So, with the single exception of perhaps Lebanon, France has or gave the impression to the French elite, French foreign ministry, Macron himself, gave the impression of abandoning to a large extent the Mediterranean, Middle East, and North Africa to focus on America and Eastern Europe. Now, what happened last week was a shock, because when Trump declared war upon his allies and friends, unlike the Canadians and the Mexicans who were expecting it, kind of, or the Chinese were very much expecting it, the European Union was taken by surprise, and they viewed it as a shocking, news. And so for the past 6-7 days, they have tried to reassess their place in the world. And I think Macron's trip to Cairo, Alexandria, and Al Arish comes in that broader context of, Europe, France rediscovering the importance of the Mediterranean, North Africa, and the Middle East. And of course, for geo-economic reasons, Egypt is very much at the heart of the Arab world, at the heart of the Middle East and North Africa. So for all these reasons, I think, Macron rushed in a way to travel to Cairo to try to revive that part of France's national interest, which he himself had neglected for a long time. And there is the issue of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, which is a festering wound. If you look at the map, the West Bank and Gaza are a festering wound at the heart of the Arab world. And that wound is getting, worse and worse and worse. It's leaking. It's destabilizing the whole region in a way. And that's why we have, the king of Jordan, who flew to Cairo to meet President Sisi and President Macron, because the issue is broader than just Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And France is trying somehow to fill the gap. What do I mean by fill the gap? In strategic thinking, there's a saying which goes back to Greece, ancient Greece: nature hates emptiness. Nature
Nature
abhors
hates
the void.
emptiness.
Yeah, so when there is a void, when something is empty, nature doesn't like it, and so there is a pressure for a replacement to fill the gap, fill the emptiness. What does it mean? Is when Trump came into office 3 months ago, he gave the impression that America was no longer a neutral, honest broker, and he's perceived in the Middle East and North Africa as being pro-Likud or pro-Netanyahu. And the statements that came from the White House about Gaza, turning Gaza into a Riviera with casinos and gambling tables, blah, 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 all that, and deporting, half or 2/3 of the population, all that was a big shock to the people and the governments of the Middle East and North Africa. And I think, that's why, the equilibrium was broken. And because the equilibrium was broken, it creates an opportunity in a way for Europe and France to fill the gap, say, okay, America is no longer perceived as an honest broker in the Middle East because it's viewed as being pro-Israeli or pro-Netanyahu, maybe we, the French or the European, we can step in and fill the void, fill the gap. So I think all that is part of President Macron's calculation.
Sir,